And the next question comes from Isdoro Rendon. And Isdoro is asking, love the show. Well, thank you, Isdoro. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. Would love to be on a discussion with you all sometime to talk about the parks. Hey, look, I mean, if you want to be on, just send me a message. And I mean, if you want, we're open, man. We're open. You know, we always love to have new people on it and talk this stuff. So if you're open to be on camera and you want to talk shop with us, hey, man, we're completely open to that. And
absolutely,
then,
100%.
Yeah, 100%. And it says, but when do you think realistically Tomorrowland will finally get some TLC? I know it's been years out considering the Finding Nemo subs are being refurbished, but even just the removal of the People Mover tracks would be something. Dre, this is like the tale as old as time.
The eternal question, right? When is Tomorrowland going to be completed? And I always tell people the same thing. Tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Yeah, exactly. Well, here's the thing. And I'll be completely honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, after the pandy, Disney's looking for any way to sort of cut corners. Oh, yeah. And that's not just like a Chapek thing. That's just like a post-pandy thing.
It's an operational reality.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. They're looking for ways to cut corners. So I really, honestly, Isdoro, I mean, I don't want it to happen right now. Because it's inevitably going to be cut to death.
Yeah.
And like we've already been through that with the 1998 Tomorrowland. Like I don't want them to even touch this area until they can get a proper budget and do it right and have it last for 20, 30, 40 years. So I'm fine with them kind of just the way it is now for now. When Disney gets the money and they're willing to spend it, we'll talk. But as of right now, I don't want them to go in there half-assed on a shoestring budget and we're in the same soup that we were with the 98 Tomorrowland. I don't want any of that. Don't even touch it until you got the money to do it.
You know what? And honestly, I kind of agree with you with that line of thinking and that mentality across multiple projects right now. Like, it's just like, it's like, hey, maybe it's better that they don't tap into Spaceship Earth, right? Or do any of these things because I think we know that cuts are coming. Like they have to be fiscally responsible, especially right now. And sometimes that means, hey, you know what? That thing we said that we were going to give you $25 million on, well, maybe we're giving you 20 or 15 or whatever. I mean, look at these different things, right? Look at the freaking lagoon in Epcot right now. Do you think those barges would still be there if they were given the budget that they were originally promised? I don't think so, right? We've seen what happens to these things. Look at what is it? Journey in Your Imagination, right? At Epcot, right? That they tried to go on the cheap with that, and they just hack and slash that attraction to death until it's just this thing that's just horrible compared to the old stuff, right? We saw it with the 1967 Tomorrowland and 1998, right? They try to go bigger with this 2055 Tomorrowland and got that budget cut, and then it was like, okay, well, let's just rehash what we did at Discoveryland and Disneyland Paris, and unfortunately, I mean, it's one of Tony Baxter's biggest flops. I mean, it's this thing where it's like you're trying to be ambitious, and when you don't have the budget, it's sometimes the worst thing. So, unfortunately, I do apologize about that, guys. I have an alarm going off, so if you heard that, I do apologize. But okay. That's operational realities, folks. I do apologize. But anyway, when you come to Tomorrowland, I mean, it's look, I understand. Here's the thing. I understand that we as fans look at that and we just go, oh my God, like this place needs help. This place is in dire need of TLC. But honestly, when you look at the entire resort, relatively speaking, operationally, it kind of does what it's supposed to do. It just because the aesthetics of the place are completely unappealing doesn't mean that it's unappealing to the point that nobody's walking in the place. No. And that's driven by some pretty relatively decent attractions that really absorb the guests. Finding Nemo will help with that, but Autopia does pretty decent numbers for what it is. Space Mountain obviously brings the people in. Yeah. I would say Star Tours and Astro Jets and or Rocket Jets, I guess. or no, Astro Orbiter, sorry. And Buzz Lightyear, they do good enough business for what they are. I mean, and even like late into the night, Space Mountain still retains its line when other attractions on the west side don't. So when you're looking at it operationally, it's like, what other things in the resort need more help than this? And I think that's why, Toontown was pushed to the front. I think that's why Hollywood, Pictures Backlight or Hollywoodland is pushed to the forward, right? Because those areas do need help. Those areas historically didn't get the attendance that Tomorrowland has done ever since 1998. So yeah, I mean, I agree. Imagineering can't be happy with that situation, which is why they've gone in there, multiple times to kind of see what they could do. We saw that, in the Imagineering story on Disney Plus, right? We saw Joe Rohde take out the whole thing. He was assigned to that, to Tomorrowland redo, and unfortunately, that's not happening. I've heard a new version of the Tomorrowland redo that involves maybe a phased plan. So. Cool. Similar to what is happening right now in Fantasyland, right? Where they're going attraction to attraction and kind of rehabbing them, whether they need help on the inside, outside, whatever. I've heard a similar plan of going through Tomorrowland step by step and going, okay, what can we do with like Space Mountain, for example? How much needs to be done in that? How much does Star Tours need to be redone? Does it need to be redone on the inside? Does it need to be redone on the outside in order to make this thing more cohesive? What can we do? I've heard that is the plan. If Tomorrowland is next man up, so to speak, that's what they're gonna do. It's Tomorrowland's a tough thing because for right now, it does what it needs to do. It does draw people in, and even though there are flaws in that, right? That I would agree, like the what is it? Interventions building, right? It's not the greatest, right? Like something needs to happen there. Something needs to happen with the old, Rocket Jets complex, People Mover platform, right? But overall, it's not in the worst shape, relatively speaking. And I think that's why it's always been put to the back burner. It's like, okay, when we have the budget, we'll do it. But in the meantime, there are other bigger things. There are other bigger problems.
Yeah, and ironically, the thing that is the best thing about Tomorrowland, which is Space Mountain, is also the thing, like to your point, Dre, is also the thing that's keeping the land from getting a renovation.
Right. Yeah.
Because that's the thing that's drawing everyone into the land.
Yeah.
And keeping it busy. And it's like, that's why Disney sees no, like, sense of urgency with it, because like, oh, we got a ton of people going through here. And then you have Star Tours, which is still very popular, also attracting people, and Buzz Lightyear is still a popular. So there's all these attractions that are still packing them in. Disney's like, okay, aesthetically might not be a looker, but at the end of the day, people are still lining up for all these attractions. So
and that's not to say that they won't eventually do it. I think they will. Like Finding Nemo Submarine Voyage is a great thing to bring up here, right? Because for that land, for the amount of land it takes up, for the amount of people it moves, for the amount of maintenance it demands, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work in any atmosphere because you have to pay divers to go in. The maintenance cost is extremely heavy. It only does like less than 1,000 people an hour. It doesn't make any sense. I think they would like to tackle that. I think they would like to tackle, like I said, the Inventions Building, the People Mover platform. They'd like to tackle a lot of this stuff, but it's like when Hollywoodland is deserted, it's like, where are we gonna apply our resources? Right. And that's what it comes down to. I'd say, to give you like a rough timeline, remember I was talking about that 4 to 5 years. Right. Well, it's going to be that plus Avengers Campus is probably going to come first. We have we have Toontown, we have Splash Mountain, we have Hollywoodland. I think all of those, and maybe even Disneyland Forward, all of those might take precedent before a Toontown renovation comes. That's the unfortunate reality. So we're probably waiting at least 5 years until we hear anything on that front.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. You're going to see the Avengers ticket will definitely come before Tomorrowland. You're going to see, like you said, Hollywoodland. You're going to see, all this stuff, even maybe, like you said, even elements of Disneyland Forward. before Tomorrowland, and here's the problem with Tomorrowland, and this has been sort of in the making for a long time, but like we've mentioned before, and I know fans don't like this, but it's the reality. Disney's all about the franchises, and when Disney decided to build a whole land for Star Wars, giving that franchise an entire land outside, separate of Tomorrowland, giving Marvel a whole land separate from Tomorrowland, it took the two biggest franchises that you could have utilized in Tomorrowland and completely separated them from the equation. And now Tomorrowland doesn't really have anything. And I know a lot of people will comment, well, what about WALL-E? Oh, what about Big Hero 6? But these are not big. These are franchises that did okay, but they're not Star Wars. They're not Marvel.
Right.
So there's no like real franchise now that you can put in there that's going to compete with a Marvel or a Star Wars. There's nothing. WALL-E, as a gorgeous movie as it is, as beautiful as it is, as the amazing storytelling as it is not Star Wars in regards to sellability. It's not the MCU. Big Hero 6, same thing. It's not a huge franchise. It's popular, but it's not the MCU. So that's another big issue. But yeah, I agree with you, Dre. I think a lot of these projects that you mentioned, the Quinjet e-ticket, Hollywoodland, all this stuff is going to come first, and then Tomorrowland. We'll eventually get it, but it's just going to be a long time coming. Like you said, maybe 5 years before we even hear anything.
Yeah.